Hi everyone, thank you for clicking to watch this video. This is Get Ready and Get Weird with Marcella. I am Marcella. I'm so glad that you're here. Today we are talking about ants. I normally try to be kind of specific, but this time I am being vague or not specific on purpose. I have a plan. I want to talk about specific species of ants in the future, as well as some interesting phenomena that can happen only to ants. And to do that, I wanted to cover ants in general, because there are some similarities between all the species of ants, hence them all being ants. There's also so many differences. With 12,000 different species of ants, there's some very interesting facts about the different species. So today we are not talking about a specific species, we are just talking about the little creepy crawly ant insects as a whole. We will cover the important part that they play in the ecosystem. We'll talk about the social structure of their colonies. We'll talk about the queens specifically a little bit. We'll also talk about their diet, their bodies, and then of course, some fun facts. Can't miss the fun facts. I also have nodded at ants with some of my makeup and clothing choices. The sweater that I'm wearing is a little nod to fire ants, who I have unfortunately interacted with in the wild. Do not recommend. Please don't. Do not. I double dog dare you to not mess with fire ants. I also have on a dark red lip. It's almost kind of brown. Well, no, it's pretty red. A dark lip, and I used mostly browns and oranges on my eyes as a nod to the colors that most of the ants we know and love have on them. Again, thank you so much for clicking to watch this video. I make new videos once a week, and I just talk about a fun, interesting, naturey, science-y animal, plant, organism. That doesn't even have to be a living organism. I just like to talk about weird stuff. So come on, let's get ready and get weird. Let's jump in and talk about ants today. Hello everyone, I'm here with my clean face, ready to talk to you about ants. So as I mentioned, we're gonna talk about ants in a general sense. There are over 12,000 species of ants, and I wanted to have a video that talked about ants in general so that we could all be on the same page about the role that they play in our ecosystem, in the world, and then just some of the general facts about ants, so that when I do species specific videos about ants, we can kind of jump into the fun stuff about that specific species. While we as humans sometimes think of them as pests, or if they were in our house, we would probably want them out, which is completely valid. They play an important role in their different ecosystems and impact the entire world. I always find it so amazing that something so small can play an integral role in the world, in its environment, in its ecosystem. One of the ways that that ants impact their environment is by aerating the soil. So as they build their homes and scavenge for food and do all of that, they actually are aerating the soil, which keeps the soil healthy and able to grow plants as it needs to. As well as aerating the soil, ants also take seeds down to their nest, down to their colonies, and they eat parts of the seeds, but then the seeds also can then grow, and then that, because the ant brought the seed from somewhere else, it's able to diversify the plant life in the area and help plants move within the environment and diversify the ecosystem. I always knew that birds did this kind of thing. You know, they eat a seed, carry the seed somewhere else, and they're able to kind of diversify the ecosystem this way. We talked about in the elephant video as well that elephants do this. You know, we think of birds, bees, pollinators and all that helping diversify the ecosystem, but I feel like the more we learn about other animals, the more we learn that they're doing similar jobs and keeping our ecosystem diversified in their own way as well. So they aerate the soil, they move seeds around. They also are part of the diet of other bugs, animals, birds. They also provide food for carnivorous plants like the pitcher plant, which I do want to cover carnivorous plants at some point on this channel. All right, so let's talk about the social aspect of ants. So ants are a social insect. They live in colonies. As most of us probably know, we see ant hills, that's their colony. The colonies can be huge underground. They're not just like the size of a ant farm you might see or have. These colonies are called formicaries, but I'm just probably gonna call them colonies because that's what I know them as. There's like a loud beeping noise outside. I'm so sorry if you can hear it. I don't know. I honestly don't know what it is. So depending on the species of ant, the colony can consist of millions of ants. Millions. That's a lot of ants. There are 3 different kinds of ants in a colony. The queen, which we'll talk more about specifically, female worker ants, and then the males. And the male's only job is to mate with the queen or mate with future queens and make more ants, more members of the colony. The queen and the males have wings, the females do not. So the ants that we see going out and collecting the food or doing the work, those are the female ants. They don't have wings and they do all the work. The queen is the only ant that can lay eggs. And I mentioned that male ants' only job is to mate with the queen to produce more babies. And after they mate with a queen, they don't live for very long after. So their only purpose in the colony is to help build the next population, the next group of ants in the colony. Besides the main jobs that I've mentioned, the worker ants, the queen, and the male ants, there's also soldier ants that work to protect the colony and specifically their queen or queens. Some different kinds of ants have more than one queen, so it could be queens. Soldier ants may also attack other colonies and try to defeat them for nesting space or food. So they aren't just passive, they do go out and search for other colonies to take over and defeat. If they do defeat another colony, they will take away the eggs from that colony, take them to their colony. So the winners of a battle will take the eggs of the defeated colony. And once those eggs hatch, they are then used as slaves at the colony that won that fight. What? That's nuts. What you barking about, Buzz? When ants do fight, the fight is normally to the death. There's no going easy on each other in the ant world, apparently. All right, so I told you that we would talk a little bit more about queens specifically. Colony queens, ant queens, queen of the ants, queen of the hill. Call it what you want. I mentioned that the males who mate with the queen to produce more babies and future queens, they die fairly quickly there after mating. The queens, however, live for a pretty long time after. Some can live for quite some time. They live for many years. They can produce millions of babies. So, girl power, I don't know, queen power. In order to lay those millions of eggs, of course, once a queen reaches adulthood, her sole job is to lay eggs and produce babies. As I mentioned earlier, a colony, depending on the species of ant, could have one queen or they could have multiple queens. If a colony only has one queen, when that queen dies, the colony can only last about a month or so, a couple of months. Queens are rarely replaced. Once they die off, the other members of the colony are not able to produce baby ants, so the colony dies off slowly. So don't kill the queen. That'll kill the whole colony. All right, so let's talk about ants' bodies, not antibodies. Ant bodies. That was so stupid, sorry. Please fast forward through that. Ant bodies have three parts. They have the head, which have the antennas on it, and the eyeballs. They have the thorax, which is the middle portion of their body. And then they have their abdomen, which is their bottom, the last portion, the portion farthest from their head. Glittery. I had not played with glitter for a while, so I had to pull it out for the ants. Okay, so we know the three parts of the ant's body, which is the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. They also have 6 legs. They are insects. The queens and the males have wings as well. Most ants also have eyes. Some do not have eyes. Some species don't have eyes, and they do not have ears. Because they don't have ears, they hear by using vibrations on the ground, and they feel them with their feet. They also don't have lungs. Ants breathe in a different way than we are used to seeing, at least in humans and mammals. Oxygen actually enters the ant's body through little holes all over their bodies, and then CO2 exits using the same holes. So they don't have to have a nose and they don't have to have lungs. They just have quick, efficient little breathing holes all over their bodies. Another interesting fact about ants that we've likely all heard is that they are very strong for their size. They are able to pick up to 20 times their body weight, and then they will kind of team up together as a group to carry larger objects as well. Let's move on to talking a little bit about their diet. Ants eat a multitude of organic things. They'll eat decaying plants, they'll eat decaying seeds, they'll even eat decaying animal material. While they're foraging for food, they leave a pheromone trail to tell themselves as well as other ants where they've been. These pheromones help to lead the rest of the worker ants, the female ants, to where the food is. You've probably seen ants walking in a little line to get to whatever food they've been foraging for. And how they're following such a straight line, or it's not really straight, but such a precise line is, I guess, what I would say, is by following the pheromones left by the ants in front of them. I mentioned that ants eat decaying plant matter, animal matter. This is so important because we need plants and animals that consume dead matter or decaying matter in order to keep our ecosystems clean. They kind of clean up the dead, they clean up the dying plants and animals. And this makes room for new growth and new life to take over. So it's the same way with like those annoying pesky flies or maggots. They're gross, but they do a very important job in our ecosystems. Many species of ants will also eat other insects and other pests such as termites. So we want to keep those ants around and get rid of the termites. They also like to eat, some species like to eat it's called honeydew. It's left by aphids, and they like that so much that they will actually protect the aphids. So here we have another symbiotic relationship between aphids and ants. The ants will protect the aphids from predators like ladybugs in order to continue eating the honeydew that's left behind by the aphids. All right, while I finish up my face, let's talk about some fun facts about ants. Ants are the longest living insect. So while some insects only live for a span of days, queen ants of specific species can live up to 30 years, which is a very long time for an insect because, as I mentioned, some insects only live for days or hours. And while every member of the colony does not have that long of a lifespan, I've already mentioned that the males, after mating with the queen, don't last much longer after that. The queen of ants, the queen ant, holds the record for the longest living insect that we know of so far. Keep looking. Another fun fact is that ants hold the record for the fastest movement in the animal kingdom. So not just in the insect kingdom here, the whole animal kingdom. One species of ant called the trap jaw ant, one of those, I'll put it on the screen. They can clamp their mandibles together at 140 miles per hour. So the fastest movement in all of the animal kingdom. That's pretty nuts. Little small, strong, quick guys and gals. Another fun fact is that the largest ant nest that was ever found was in Argentina, and it was over 3,700 miles wide. As I mentioned, this was found in Argentina. 33 ant colonies, separate ant colonies that had combined to create this huge nest, a huge super colony of ants. This super colony had millions of nests and billions of worker ants. And this nest was found in the year 2000. Last but not least, this is not quite surprising considering there's so many different species of ants. You would imagine that they have been, there's a kind of ant that can live everywhere in the world. And that is true. But something that makes me laugh, maybe it'll make you laugh too, is that ants can be found on every single continent on the planet except for one. And that's what's funny. The continent that you cannot find ants on is called Antarctica. Antarctica. But there's no ants. Anti-Antarctica. I don't know, there's a joke in there somewhere, but I think that's hilarious. So you can find our ants on almost every continent on the planet. The only one that ants have not been found on is Antarctica. Put stuff on my teeth. is Antarctica, which, as you can tell, I think is hilarious because it has ant in the name. You would think ants would live there. You would think they knew it had their name in it, right? All right, everyone. Thank you for entertaining me by listening to that drawn out pun name play on words joke. I don't think it was a joke. It wasn't that funny, but thank you for letting me say it and explain it. Because you know, the best part of a joke is when you explain it. So dumb. All right, so we talked about the role that ants play in the ecosystem, the social structure of a colony of ants. We talked specifically about the queens. We talked about an ant's body parts and different things that are interesting about ants' bodies. We also talked about their diet, and we covered some fun facts. I really appreciate you being here, clicking to watch this video. Every week I enjoy choosing a topic and then doing research and finding out what I can about that specific topic. I have some ideas about cool things to share about specific species of ants, as well as specific phenomena that only happen to ants. And so that is why I wanted to cover ants as a whole. So thank you so much for being here. This is my 10th video, so if you've seen all of them, I've now made 10. That's a pretty small milestone, but a milestone nonetheless. We will talk about some more specific ant species in the future, I promise. With all of that being said, thank you again for being here. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, as well as share these videos or my channel with anyone who you think would enjoy these kinds of videos where we just sit down, chit chat about something super cool and interesting while I put some makeup on my face. And of course, the most important thing to remember is to stay weird.